Chapter 16 goes a little bit further on the topic of enterprise. It talks about different types of enterprise. So, in this chapter, we will learn to distinguish between financial, cultural, and social enterprises. There are three types. We'll discuss the key features of each type of enterprise, and we'll appreciate the role played by different categories of enterprise in society. So, different types of enterprise. Well, local organizations operate in a specific local area. An example of a local enterprise for us here in Cavan might be a business like Tractor Motors, who are just in the locality and they're just a Cavan business, or maybe an organization like the Cavan Food Festival, Taste of Cavan, who is that is a local enterprise. A national organisation is one which operate or have branches all over Ireland. Perhaps an example there might be Dunstores or the Bank of Ireland. And then, of course, a global organisation are very large organisations and they have operations all over the world. Google, Facebook, Aldi, Lidl, these are good examples of global organisations. McDonald's. Now, financial enterprises, or sometimes called commercial enterprises, are set up to make a profit by selling a good or a service, a product or a service. So they are profit-making organizations. That's the key thing there. They, it's their intention to make a profit. They do other things as well, though. They do provide us with goods and services. So Dunnes Stores is a financial or a commercial organization. They provide us with their goods and services. They provide lots of employment for people. People work there. They pay tax to the government. They provide finance to other people, specifically banks and building societies, those particular financial enterprises. And they boost economic growth. They help the economy to grow of the country by generating wealth and providing employment and paying tax. Not-for-profit organizations or non-commercial enterprises are also really important in Ireland. So not-for-profit or non-commercial enterprises might include charities, voluntary organizations that provide a range of services and benefits to the community. So you're talking there about charities, you're talking there about sports clubs. The GAA is a good example of a not-for-profit enterprise. While they can make a profit, it's not their specific primary goal. Local enterprise offices. Well, a LEO, or a local enterprise office, is an organization which is set up mainly in the counties in Ireland, even though there are several of them around the Dublin area. So it says there are 31 across the 26 counties. Um, they offer a range of support and services to people who are interested in setting up and starting up new businesses. So they train people up on how to become entrepreneurs. They will give them advice on their accounts, on their marketing. They will give them advice on how to run their business. And that lady with the rollage pastry in the picture, well, she is a startup business from Ireland, and she's featured in your textbook on page number 182, Mairead Finnegan, and you can read about how the local enterprise office helped her on that page. So they offer financial advice to entrepreneurs and also direct financial support, so like grants and money. A mentoring service where entrepreneurs are able to seek advice from experienced business professionals. So a mentor will come in and tell them how to run a business. They have a business advisory, information advisory and training service to help entrepreneurs to upskill. So if an entrepreneur wasn't really skilled in finances or in social media or that kind of thing, then somebody will upskill them or train them in that. Enterprise Ireland is also an organisation. They're a government organisation that helps Irish startup enterprises that have the potential to create employment. by exporting their goods and services to overseas markets. So these are maybe slightly bigger companies, but these are companies who are going to sell abroad, and Enterprise Ireland helped those guys. Not the local Enterprise office, but Enterprise Ireland is more of a national organization, and they help potential exporters to figure out how they're going to export, put them in touch with potential customers internationally. So they offer financial support for startup and expanding enterprises. They help with research and development, so companies can become more innovative and competitive, because when you start exporting, you have a lot more competition from international competitors. They will help you with export assistance, introducing you to overseas customers and information about selling overseas. Now, that's a financial enterprise sorted, but now we're going to move on to a social enterprise. And a social enterprise, Food Cloud is an example of one. A social enterprise is one that puts people and community ahead of private or personal gain. So these are often more like charities. And Food Cloud is a good example of a social enterprise. Food Cloud is a charity which collects unused and unwanted food from different hotels and catering companies and then distributes it around the city of Dublin to homeless people and people who would make better use of it instead of it being thrown out. Um, Support for social enterprises. Well, there's Social Enterprises Ireland, who are a not-for-profit organisation that help entrepreneurs by providing financial and practical support. Credit unions are a good example of a social enterprise. Credit unions are in every locality in Ireland. They're not necessarily there to make a profit. Now, they do make a profit, but usually that is returned back to the local members, who are the people who put the money in the form of a dividend. So their main purpose is to provide cheap and affordable loans to people in the local Cavan area, for example, if we talk about Cavan Credit Union. So they're a good example of a social enterprise. Other examples of social enterprises would be you're talking there about the Young Social Innovators or Coder Dojo, which is teaches young people how to do coding, or maybe Macro na Pharma, who are an organization for young farmers to socialize in. Those are examples of social enterprise. They help to tackle social problems like homelessness or like poverty. They provide services um, like homeless charities, St. Vincent de Paul or Alone. They create supports and employment. People do work for these enterprises. They provide finance for others in the form of the credit union, and they help to create a culture of enterprise in a country where enterprises becomes really important for that country. A cultural enterprise, well, these are enterprises which provide local and national consumers with access to arts and cultural activities and events. So we're talking here about um, maybe festivals, maybe theatres or museums. These are all cultural enterprises. Again, their purpose is not mainly to make a profit. Instead, their purpose is to give their customers access to the arts and sport. Sports clubs could be considered cultural enterprises as well. So they promote arts and culture. They do create jobs. People do work in libraries. They do work in museums and in festival committees. But they also support the local economy and they provide entertainment. The FLA is a good example of a cultural enterprise in Ireland. Cultus, who run the FLA na HÉireann, the Abbey Theatre, Culture Ireland, these are all the Arts Council of Ireland, these are all examples of organisations who help cultural enterprises to get set up and run. Just to recap and review, we need to be able to distinguish between financial, cultural, and social enterprises. Financial are profit making, whereas this is to do with providing cultural experience for their customers and looking after society in the form of charities. Discuss the key features of each type of enterprise and appreciate the role um, played by each category of enterprise in society.